Here we go. I'm Sharp Banerjee, and this is Books That Built Me. I'm an ex-executive turned to leadership coach, specializing in people managers. My job is to get people out of that manager headspace and more into their leadership growth space. I typically work with clients to build their leadership DNA and self-leadership muscles in group programs or one-to-one coaching. But on this show, we dive deep into the stories of other leaders. And it all starts with a book that they believe has influenced their decisions, and these book lessons are now life lessons. Welcome to Books That Built Me. Today, I'm in conversation with Alicia Desa, and in today's episode, we're going to discuss this book right here, Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. I'm so glad you could join us. Here we go. Welcome to Books That Built Me. Today, we have a deliciously thick, heavy-duty book. Kidding, not at all. It's like the skinniest book in the world. It's called Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. And we have my beautiful friend, Alicia Desa, joining us. Alicia, why don't you take it away and share with our audience who you are and what you do in this world?
Yes, thank you, Shar. I'm so happy to be here. I am Alicia Desa, and I am a gasket guru. I lead a team of amazing people who solve problems on a day-to-day basis, mainly in the gasket and sealing industry. And our company name is All Custom Gasket. And it's exactly what it says in the name. We manufacture gaskets. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I'm going to call you the Gasket Queen because I feel like that is just where this is at.
I love that title.
Yeah. And for our listeners, I have to say, when I introduced this podcast to you and was kind of talking to you about it, you immediately said, well, it's got to be this book. It's got to be this book because there was a family story here. So let's get into that. Why did you pick this one?
Yeah. So I think probably about 20 years ago, let's say, my dad had, it was on a vacation, and a man from Chicago was on the vacation with us and told my dad, "Hey, have you read this book? It's amazing." And my dad he was in business, and he loved reading growth and those types of self-help kind of books. And he said, "You got to read this book. I can't believe you haven't read this yet, Peter." And he read it, and my dad fell in love with it. And then from that day on, he gave it to me and my sisters to read. And this was when I was young, and I read it once, but it's a book that you can come back to. I mean, as you said, it's super thin. You can come back to over and over again, and every time you learn something new. And even recently, when I was telling my dad that I was doing this podcast, he decided to reread it. And he came up with all these other things in his, in his different way of life now, different stage of life.
Yeah.
He came up with all these other learnings that he didn't get from before.
Wow. And thanks for calling that out, because books have this amazing power of speaking to us exactly where we are in life.
I 100% agree.
Okay, well, so let's get into it, because this is what this entire podcast is about. You can read a book, but what it touches within you is always different.
Agreed.
And the impact that it leaves within you resonates on such a deep level. And so that's what we get into here, are the stories behind what were the takeaways.
And you know what? Spencer Johnson, in the beginning, he prefaces with saying, I wrote this book and there's tons of lessons in it. And some people might not get anything out of it. Some people might get 2 lessons. Some people might get 50 lessons. And it's all about how you interpret it. Like the way he's written it, it's a story. And you can get something different. You can interpret it differently. So what I get out of it might be different from what you interpret the story as.
Yeah.
And you're right, what you said before. It also depends on the stage of life that you're in too.
Yeah. So for our listeners who have not yet opened this book or is kind of curious about what this is a fable.
Yes.
So it sort of starts with these people who are kind of sitting around and talking about a story.
Yes.
And then they dive into the story. And the story is about 4 mice.
4 characters. 2 are mice and then 2 are little people.
That's right. That's right. Two mice and two little people. And that's important because the mice are, well, one of them's called Sniff, the other one is called Scurry, and then the little people, one of them's called Hem, and the other one's called Haw. And
Mhm.
they all represent a different character.
Yes.
And so for the mice, Sniff is a person who likes to sniff out change early.
Hmm.
Scurry is a mice who scurries into action right away.
Yeah.
Hem is a little people who denies or resists change, and or sort of holds on to the fear that something far worse will happen.
Yes. He's comfortable with his situation and he doesn't want change.
That's right. He doesn't
Yeah.
want change. He's kind of comfortable, and resistant to sort of moving in any other direction. And then there's Haw, who is the last character in this, who is another little person who
Mhm.
adapts, who learns to adapt in time, and he can kind of see that changing can lead to something better, but with effort.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
effort. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's the story. And so it's a little fable of, these four characters. They're kind of like in a maze. They are hunting for cheese, and then there's something that happens to the cheese, and they've got to go search for more cheese, or they've got to defend their position on the cheese. And it's very quick read. Like it's an extremely like
Super quick.
super
Yeah.
quick. And then the book concludes with the same group of people who were sort of sharing the story, them then using this story as the metaphor for how this relates in their life.
Exactly, yeah. And
Yeah.
that end story, even of how they're talking about it, some of them relate it to work, some of them relate it to their personal lives. And that's exactly it is. It's a story about change and your perspective on change, how you deal
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
and how you can use it anywhere and at any
Yeah.
stage too of a
Yeah.
project, of of a move that you're going through in life.
Yeah.
It's you can really think about it in different ways, and it helps you to change your perspective. And,
That's it. That's it. It
yeah.
really helps you to change perspectives. So let's get into it because you said that you had picked it up four times in your life.
Mhm.
One was nah, the other one was kind of interesting,
Yeah.
and it sounds like the third and fourth were really like, it's hitting
Yes.
home now.
Oh yeah.
What's an impactful lesson from this story that you've taken away that has changed the way that you work or the way that you are today?
Yeah. I think for this book, it comes down because it's so simple. I wanted to think of three simple words that I got out of it, and it's accept, learn, and grow.
So it's so cool how you have these three words that really get to the essence of the story. As you were talking about accept, the visual that came to mind for some reason is for the mice.
Mhm.
One of the details about them is, as they found their cheese, so this is the thing. They were using their nose, they were using their senses. They didn't assume that they knew where it was. They would always be engaging their senses to find the cheese every single morning.
Yeah. Hmm.
And when they found it, it's not like they got comfortable. They actually tied up their shoelaces together and slung it over their neck so that it was right there, ready to go.
They were anticipating it and they were ready for it.
Yeah.
And every time you do that, it's like training. Every time you train for that change, you get better and better. So you learn things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe at the end of it, they had better Nike shoes or they had better, like they really learned from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what it speaks to is this entire concept of accept, because they've already accepted that this is not forever.
Yeah.
They've already accepted that this is their reward right now, like
Hmm.
just then, just today, and it's not going to be like that forever.
Yeah.
Which, as you say out loud, like the word accept, and what does it mean to accept in this cute little face, cute little laces, like what I can only assume is cute little laces on their cute little shoes on their around their cute little necks. What I'm wondering is how does accept, like to accept something, how does that show up in the work that you do, Alicia?
Hmm. I think it's understanding a challenge or situation fully and
Mm,
completely. It's, first of all, knowing that you might not know it all. And I think that's a big thing,
yeah.
especially in work. is that people want to know it all. People don't want to be wrong. People want
Yeah.
to feel confident and like they know everything there is to know.
Yeah.
And something that I've learned, not only from this book, but, you know, even in the last year, is that I don't know it all.
Mm.
And that one phrase to repeat to yourself, I don't know it all. There's just
Mm.
something so humbling about it is that
Yeah.
okay. And also maybe it's not just humbling, it's like a feeling of release. Like, okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be
Grounding.
stressful. Yes, grounding.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
just
Yeah.
your 2 feet are planted on the ground and you feel okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know it all, but
Mm.
that does not to say that you won't know it all or you
Mm.
won't know more. It kind of catapults you into that growth mindset, into that learning stage. So that
Yeah.
acceptance, you need that acceptance. You need to accept, okay, where you are in life, what you know, what you don't know, and that will help you go on to the next stage. Okay, what
Yeah.
don't I know? Okay, let me learn about it. And
Mm.
it automatically shifts you into learn.
Yeah. And what it sounds like too is as you stand steady in this space of, I know what I know,
Mhm.
I know that it's not everything.
Yeah,
What you're also inviting to the table is space for, here's what I don't know. I know that I don't know.
exactly.
Welcome to the table. And there's also this invitation to this unknown of, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah. And a lot of people, they think of uncertainty or that unknown as something, they fear it. Oh, I
Mm.
don't know it. I don't know what lies beyond that.
Yeah.
But you don't know if it could be good, it could be bad. But again, that's not going to last forever. So
Mm.
get to know that.
Yeah.
Learn from it and then go to the next stage.
Yeah.
And it's something, especially with work and with teams, I find that, and I try to say that or repeat that phrase a lot because our team is made up of such interesting people. They come from different backgrounds, different skills, and everyone is almost an expert in their own field. They all know that they don't know it all. And we did this test. I asked everyone one day, who thinks they know it all? And no one put up their hand. And that tells me that everyone knows, okay, you know what? I don't know it all. Maybe, this person knows something specific about this area or this department. And, like someone in accounting, oh, I know how to do this. Or someone in purchasing, I know how to do this. But I don't really know accounting or I don't really know that side of it or that sales part. And it's all about how we can accept where we are and we have a team of people that we can lean on and learn from each other. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is that first question was, hey, okay, I don't know it all. And my
Yeah.
second question was, do you want to learn? And everyone jumped up and said yes.
Yeah.
So it's like those two things, the combination of those two things is so powerful that, okay, I don't know, but I want to learn. There's no fear in that. And
Yeah.
you're just automatically drawn into
Yeah.
action.
Yeah. The equation works. Like
Yeah.
that is a powerful equation. I
Yeah.
don't know it all. I'm ready to learn. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're also calling out to is this partnership,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? There's this sense of synergy
Mm-hmm.
when
Yeah.
you have the awareness that what you do is imperative for the entire thing to exist. That
Yes.
without you, there is a void.
Mm-hmm.
So it's necessary for you to be skilled in your domain and
Mm-hmm.
be curious about how the entire sort of puzzle fits in
It's
together.
true. And those skills that you learn help you in your job, but it also helps you teach other people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that give and take that's so powerful that we all really want in life. You want to be understood, you want to be appreciated, and with those two things, it
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, you're seen. You're
Yeah.
definitely seen, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the first component of the word that you used of the three step. Like those are the three words that
Yeah.
jumped out of you. The first one was to just accept.
Hmm.
The second word that you used was learn. And
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but as you said learn, I got the visual of the little person who wanted to go explore. Do you remember that part in the story, the fable, where
Yes.
Sniff and Scurry realized that there was no more cheese, and they just started using their senses, and they started going off on the maze, looking, utilizing their best tools that they had available to them.
Mhm.
And Hem and Haw were hemming and hawing.
Exactly.
And they were hemming and hawing, and they were like, "What happened? The cheese will come back. Where did it go? Who moved my cheese?"
There you go.
But it was Haw who said,
Mhm.
"I think I'm ready to learn something new." And
Mhm.
the image that comes to mind is when he's at that door. He's
Mhm.
at that door, his laces are on, or his shoes are on, his laces are all tied up, and he looks back. He looks back to him, he sees the past, and then he looks out the door and he sees darkness. And as you say, learn, I'm just
Yeah.
reminded of that moment in the fable.
That's exactly it. It's like you don't know what's beyond, and you have no way of knowing. You've been through the past, you've seen the past, you know the past, but you have no idea what lies ahead. And what some people don't realize or remember is that you were there originally. That's how you started. Is you did know what lied ahead, but you had to go in through it and learn, even though you had no clue what was in the darkness. And I
Yeah.
think there was almost like a full couple of pages of his thought process going back and forth. Should I do it? But
Mm,
I'm so comfortable here.
mm,
What if I don't find any cheese? What if?
mm.
What if? What if?
Yeah. And you're right. It was torturous to go
Yeah,
through that. I almost was like, "Okay, let's go.
let's do this. Yeah, yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
I want this so badly for you."
Yeah.
But I think there is also the tension in that
Mhm.
moment
Yeah.
is real. It is something that we all go through. The what ifs are
Constant.
endless.
Yeah. And it's so interesting is that when you're saying, "Oh, I want him to go through that," it was so hard to read that. It's very similar in real life too. Is when you see a friend go through a challenge, when you're looking at it from a third party, you're like, "Oh, this is obviously the solution." But to them, they're so deep in their thoughts or so deep in that challenge that they can't see it. And even if you tell them, they might not see it or they might not think of that as a solution because they have to get there themselves. Sometimes it's not you pushing someone else, it's you maybe like dropping these hints, but that person has to do it.
Yeah.
Like Ha had to figure that out on himself. No one was going to push him. It had to be from inside. It had to be an intrinsic motivation to kind of,
Yeah.
I got to do
Yeah.
this myself. You have to be
Yeah.
ready to change.
Yeah. Not only did he have to do it by himself, but he had to also sort of overcome that barrier of him, who was
Hmm.
just like hemming.
Yeah.
"Mm-mm, I'm staying
Mm,
right
yeah.
here. The outside world is scary."
Yeah.
He had to sort of tune that out
Hmm.
and tune up the confidence of
Yeah.
that he could do it on his own.
You just had to jump in. He
Mhm.
has to do that on his own. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something else that you said, which was so interesting, an excellent observation that there was a point before the room was empty. Like at one point, the room was full of cheese.
Yeah.
They got used to it. They ate all the cheese up, and the cheese was all done. And now they have to go find a new room of cheese.
Mhm.
That's basically the plot line.
Yeah.
Like as simple as that. As
Simple.
simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as simple, but so deep and so rich.
Yeah.
But something you said about, he did have a moment of darkness because the first room was ultimately found by him. So he did go down a path
Hmm.
of the unknown, of the darkness. He did do that with his friend, Hem, and Sniff and Scurry. All of them did
All
it
fun.
together.
Hmm.
But what you alluded to is that he did that once
Hmm.
and they found the path and he had memorized the path. And there's a call out to this in the book too, where once you've memorized the path, you kind of just you live in default because you
Hmm.
know what the path is
Yeah.
and you're no longer paying attention and you take the path for granted. And it's almost that notion that you've learned this one thing, you're comfortable that you've learned it, and then you stop learning.
Hmm. It's so detrimental to have that kind of thought process. To think I've learned it all. I'm
Hmm.
good. And I was thinking about this the other day. Is that I have a new baby niece who's about 11 months, and she's absolutely adorable. And it's so interesting whenever I babysit her, whenever I'm with her, just seeing the world through her eyes.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of people, as we get older, we tend to complicate things. And especially with this hem and ha, they have these complicated brains. They overthink it and analyze it. And we're kind of groomed to do that as we
Mm.
get older. But this book is really about going back to the basics. It's about seeing the world through a baby's eyes, through Sniff and Scurry's eyes, very simply.
There was one part of the learn that I felt really helped Haw
Hmm.
take that leap. And it was something that he wrote on a wall. It was like a motivational thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Gotcha.
His quote goes, "If you do not change, you can become extinct."
Hmm.
He wrote that and then he got out of that door and he left.
That just gave me shivers.
Yeah.
Those, especially that one, hearing that saying it out loud, it it's a good you need these reminders. And I think in life we can be each one of those characters at any
Mm.
point. I think there's sometimes where we can be Sniff, where we can be Scurry, we can be Ha, we can also be Ham. We don't want to
Mhm.
change. We've become comfortable. And those one liners, those one sentences really they they've got a punch.
Yeah.
They kind of hit you
Yeah.
out of your same kind of thought process.
Yeah.
And they push you into changing, into seeing change differently, a different perspective.
A different perspective.
Yeah.
This actually calls out to what you had alluded to earlier in this conversation that, what you see, it's almost a version of accept.
Hmm.
It's like you put this thing on a plate and then you rotate the plate to look at all different angles of it,
Yeah.
right? Like, what does it look like when you change the perspective?
It's so true. And we
Mm.
actually do this. We do this at work too. Anytime there's a mistake, we have to kind of do an internal investigation. Okay, why did this happen? And we do the five whys. Why did that happen? Why did that happen? And we get to the bottom of it. We get to that root cause. And that's the same thing with all of this. Okay, why do we not want to change? What's holding us back? And you uncover, okay, maybe it's my fear of this, or
Yeah.
you know what, I don't like to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, and that takes you down another path that you
Yeah.
never knew you would ever
Yeah.
come upon. And
Yeah.
actually, even sometimes you don't learn lessons until years later, and you're like, oh, that's
Mm.
why that happened. And there was
Mm.
this one in middle school or high school. I had applied to an exchange program abroad, and I wanted it so badly. It was to go to Australia, and I thought, oh my god, a chance to travel! I would love this, and I didn't get it,
Yeah.
and I was heartbroken. I remember being so sad and just
Mm.
so like, oh my god, why wouldn't they pick me? And that summer, I realized, okay, I mean, I didn't realize it that summer. I was still upset, but then something else came out of it. I decided, okay, I'm going to try something new. I joined a work canoe team, and I trained every single day, every single morning. And at the end of that summer, I went to the National Canadian Canoeing and Kayaking Championships.
Hmm.
And if I had gotten that exchange program, I would have never done that.
Yeah.
And that canoeing, that work canoeing that started my love of water sports, of kayaking. And I still kayak to this day and canoe, and I was rowing a couple of years ago, and I did some regattas there too. And if I had never done that, I would have never done all of this stuff in my later years.
Thank you, rejection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
not picking me
Yeah.
because look at me now.
It's a completely different path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a completely different path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just never know. Like everything has the opportunity of being the gift that you just
Mhm.
needed.
And it's just changing your perspective. It's
Yeah.
turning that coin. It's turning
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's rotating it and just saying, okay, how can I see this differently?
Yeah. I'm interested in knowing your perspective on the twist at the end.
Hmm.
There's a little twist. I mean, I don't know if it's a little bit of a cliffhanger with, the entire time that Haw is doing the brave thing and he's out on his own and he loses his motivation, but then he motivates himself and he keeps going. He keeps
Hmm.
finding the spirit within to keep, pushing forward. And all the while he's writing these motivational things on the wall, almost not for himself, but in hopes that his friend is going to join him one day, him.
Yeah.
So he thinks of him constantly. He thinks of him leaving. He thinks of him reading this and being inspired and moving forward. And at the very end, he goes, "Oh my gosh, there was a noise." And by this time he's found a new room, there's delicious cheese, all this stuff. And he hears a noise and he thinks, could that be him? Did he
Yeah.
come? Is he
Yeah.
here? Is he here? And it goes, "Well, that's the end, or is it a new beginning?" And so I just
Exactly.
wanted to know what your take on this desire, right?
Yeah.
Like there is literally this
Yeah.
constant desire for Haw throughout the entire time of solo exploring,
Hmm.
his desire for his friend to join him. What do
Hmm.
you make of that?
I think it's his comfort.
Yeah.
He was so comfortable with him, and he set on a path completely different.
Yeah.
It would be great if
Yeah.
him could be here with me, but
Yeah.
I know that even if he's not, there's going to be something else around the corner that
Yeah.
I am going to have to deal with,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get ready for that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope that he was trying to get there,
I
but
think I think he was. And I totally agree with you that I think there is an element of um longing and an
mm,
element of inspiration
mm,
that he was imparting. Maybe not, I mean, in the story it was about him, but I think the representation of what this means as a leader,
mhm,
right? When you go it alone
mhm.
and you have this wisdom to impart and you have this belief that I can do it, you
Everyone's
can do it too.
yeah.
And I hope and pray that my words have
Mhm,
some sort of lasting impact in your
mhm.
world.
Yeah,
I like to think that that's what he was trying to do. That there
that's
was
true.
there was a vision for someone else, but really it represents a vision
Himself.
for himself and everyone else who's a little bit afraid of trying.
Yes, yeah. And that was
Mm.
his kind of legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see so much growth in that, right? Because
Oh,
that was the last piece of what you said, like the big takeaway.
yeah, exactly the end. And then, even there's also something to be said about his judgment of it all. Like in the beginning, he
Mhm.
was very worried. He kind of judged himself,
Yeah.
like we all do, judged ourselves, judged others. He was saying, oh, this guy Ha, he doesn't want to change. He's stuck in his past. And, I gotta move on. I gotta get out of here. And along the way, he questioned himself again. Is this the right decision? Should I go back? Always kind of looking over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Should I go back? Should I go forward? I don't know. I don't know. And there's always this judgment
Mhm.
towards yourself. And that you don't know if you're making the right or wrong decision.
And I also think as the observer, we can clearly see that the judgment was just time. It was effort.
Yeah,
It actually did not help him. It did not hurt him, but it kind of took away his focus, didn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
He had to go through all of that, and he didn't know that from an outside perspective, it seems so silly.
Yeah. It was a
But
waste of energy when he was
mhm,
putting great energy to great use.
yes, yeah.
And there were these like detraction points
Hmm.
of the longing and the dream and he just, every time he did that, he was not in the present moment.
Yeah. Hmm. He was taking his eye off his
Mm,
focus. And it's not
mm.
to say that's bad. You can do that,
Yeah.
but you just need to come back to it. And that's all it is. It's kind of like
Yeah.
accepting where you are.
Yeah.
Okay, learning, where do I need to go? Where do I
Yeah.
grow? All right. And then the cycle starts over again. It's
Yeah.
constant.
Oh, that's lovely because actually that's exactly what happened in the end. He ended up just accepting what is,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the cycle starts all over again.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
And
Yeah.
actually, there is a sequel to this book, which I haven't read,
Okay.
but it is called Out of the Maze. And there is, I mean, I don't know if they answer that cliffhanger at the end,
Yeah.
but who knows?
Oh, interesting. Oh, I didn't realize that there was
Yeah.
another there. Yeah, great. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for this awesome recommendation. Thanks to your dad,
I
and thanks
know.
to that person on that trip
That
who
mystery man.
insisted. Yeah, the mystery
Man, yeah.
man. Isn't that so funny how one suggestion from one person has turned into lifelong lessons for himself, for his kids, for myself, for people who are listening to this, like
Who knew?
the impact of one suggestion.
It's so true. And just it's just one thought that
Yeah.
can just catapult a whole journey.
Yeah, catapult is a beautiful
Mhm.
word.
Yeah.
So this is Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. Love the recommendation. Incredible read. Takes literally no time and gets you thinking right away. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, we've loved having you here. Thank you so much. The Gears Queen, ladies and
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
And that's it for this episode of Books That Built Me. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. It really helps support what we're doing. Thanks for listening, and you can always find me on my LinkedIn at Sharp Energy. If you're dealing with a leadership challenge, I would love to hear from you and have you join our community. And of course, I'll talk to you next Tuesday on a brand new episode of Books That Built Me.